and good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from our news up at Desawe Kanda. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Ghana Parliament and a corruption scandal that yet again threatens Ghana's resolve at ensuring and insisting on value for money at all levels. This evening, Hot Edition will explore the AXA power deal that has come back to haunt both politicians and civil servants. Well, it's a conversation that has been evolving, taking different shapes and forms for the last 72 hours. There's a statement from the lawyers of the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, denying any involvement in allegations of bribery linked to the United States case involving former Tamale Refinery Managing Director and the Goldman Sachs trader. We'll give you details of that shortly and what the former Power Minister's lawyers have been saying. Former minister in that sector, KT Hammond, has been talking. Stay with us. We have a conversation this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also this evening here on Hot Edition, new cocoa bill still ruffling feathers as minority describes the bill as an imposition on the farmer. Later, mass labor unrest looms on education front as university administrators begin strike, with pre-tertiary teachers threatening strikes by the end of the month. All these and more here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Get your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions are welcome. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube at 3FM 927. Share your thoughts with us, read it out to you into the rest of the world. Let's go into the issues right now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, says it has commenced preliminary work into the Ghanaian dimension of the bribery case involving a former Goldman Sachs investment banker and former managing director of the Tamale Refinery, Asante Kweku Beko. The announcement follows a request received by the Economic and Organized Crime Office last year from its counterparts in the United States in connection with investigations into an alleged bribery scheme. Now, the statement comes following the conviction of Asante Beko in the United States in connection with the bribery allegations. Now, we have a copy of the EOCO statement. If you go on our Facebook page right now, at 3FM 927, we're showing you details of that statement from the Economic and Organized Crime Office, and there you have it. If you're there, you'll see the statement we just received from EOCO. It's fresh on the plate right now. According to EOCO, the request sought information on specific individuals in Ghana considered relevant to the investigations, including a former minister of state and some public servants. EOCO says it is subsequently working with the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice to undertake preliminary work on the Ghanaian aspects of the case. Now, the office also says it closely monitored proceedings in the United States as evidence emerging from the case could help determine the scope and direction of any comprehensive investigation in Ghana. EOCO says its approaches has been deliberate, stressing that investigations must be properly grounded in evidence and conducted in accordance with the law. Edem Senano is co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is going to be joining us shortly for a conversation while we also look at the details as we know it right now and how things are played out regarding this particular case and what we've been gathering so far. Now, but if you go on our Facebook page right now at 3FM 927 on Facebook and on YouTube, you'll see this statement from the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, wishing to assure the public that it has been attentive to the developments in the matter regarding Asante Kweku Beko, a former Ghanaian Goldman Sachs investment banker who subsequently served as managing director of the refinery in respect of allegations of bribery arising from his period in the private sector. Last year, IOCO received a request from its counterparts in the United States in connection with investments into the alleged bribery scheme. The request sought information relating to specific individuals. And this is the aspect of the IOCO statement that gives us a pointer of what exactly they are looking out for. That specific individuals in Ghana who were considered relevant to the investigation, including a former minister of state and public servants. This is what is happening right now regarding this particular development. And also, following receipt of the request, IOCO, in collaboration with the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, commenced preliminary work in relation to the Ghanaian aspects of the matter. But let's get into a bit more detail on exactly what we know. And for the uninitiated, those of you who are even hearing this for the first time, and Wise Safo is with our research desk, and let's backtrack a bit. Wise, yeah, what do we know so far? How has this case, in fact, when did it start?
Okay.
What does the U.S. court ruling tell us regarding exactly who received what when it comes to the bribes?
Okay, so Alfred, to understand this, you have to go back as far back as December of 2014. And if you recall, that time we were having intermittent power outages, popularly known as DOOMS. So at the time, government urgently needed an additional electricity, and a Turkish company named AXA Energy was pursuing an emergency power project up to some 370 megawatts of power. So at the same time, Asante Kweku Beko, then he was an executive director of a U.S. major investment bank. You mentioned the name Goldman Sachs, and he was working on financing for the transaction. So his bank stood to earn about $11.3 million as fees if the deal succeeded. So from December 2014, this Turkish company named AXA Energy began meeting some senior Ghanaian officials. So by 2015, the U.S. case says that there was a meeting in Istanbul together with Bekum and some company representatives, some senior government official, and a person described only as presidential relative. So even before any major money was moved, the first stage was to buy access, getting the right people around the table. That was the first stage. That's the general background of the deal, where the deal began. Then we move on to the approval networks. So the AXA deal could not simply be signed by one person. So it needed to pass through several institutions. We have the Ministry of Power, now Energy Ministry, right? We have the Cabinet, Parliament, GridCo, and PRE-TERTIARY, the Public Utility Regulatory Commission. So that means that different officials controlled different stages at the of this approval process. By February of 2015, a person identified in the U.S. documents, the transcript that we have received, as Ghana Official 1, was already deeply involved in the negotiations on behalf of the senior official whose approval was required for this deal to go through. So then, on 11 March 2015, an email referred to an emergency project team, including another senior ministry official named Ghana Official 2, was an email was sent. And this became important because prosecutors later alleged that payments were directed not only at senior political figures, but at people working inside the approval machinery. Then we move on to the first big money that was paid. It was around April 2015. So on April 14th April 2015, an invoice of $500,000 was issued. 5 days later, an intermediary wrote that he intended to give $250,000 of that money to Ghana Official 1, which was mentioned earlier. Then on 20th April, another email carried a simple instruction. This was what the email said: pay Ghana Official 1. That same day, the $500,000 was transferred from that Turkey company's accounts through a Ghanaian consulting company using the U.S. bank system. That does not allow by itself, okay, I have to put this caveat, that by itself does not prove that $250,000 ultimately landed in the official's personal account as well. I have to put that on record. Then, on April 2015, there were mentions of 5 officials flying to Turkey So days later after this transaction, another part of the alleged scheme unfolded. So around 24th April 2015, about 5 Ghanaian officials traveled to Turkey to inspect the equipment ASA proposed to use. So they will need to bring this equipment to establish this power grids to be able to generate that 370 megawatts of power for us. So their flights were paid, their hotels were paid. The prosecutors also alleged that each official received $5,000 in cash. So approximately $25,000 altogether. So these officials later produced a favorable technical assessment of the equipment that were coming. Well, you can say conflict of interest, depends on how you look at it. Their flights were paid, they were given $5,000. They came back with good reviews about the equipment. And we move on to the stage 4 of the whole process. The deal was then signed. So another $1.5 million were moved. So on 12 May 2015, the senior Ghanaian official signed the power deal. That same day, a second invoice, this time it was $1.5 million, was issued. We have already sent some 500,000. Add this $1.5 million, we are around $2 million, excluding the 5,000 that were paid to these 5 officials that went to inspect the AXA equipment. 10 days later, on 22nd May, the $1.5 million was transferred into a Ghanaian consulting company's account. This is one of the key patterns. So the major patterns, payments appear around major approval milestones. You realize that after this approval is done, then there is a release of some money. This approval is done, the release of some money. After 5,000 was released to some 5 people, then good reviews came. Then the internal breakdown of funds is this. So PRC received some $20,000. The Ghana official too received $10,000. The MOP girls, Ministry of Power girls, received some $20,000. The power team, then right now Ministry of Energy, right? The power team received $25,000. The gridco engineers were mentioned in the documents, $20,000. Turkey travel. So the Turkey travel, the accommodation, the flight, the $5,000 that were given to the 5 people. In all, it's amounted to some $45,000. And also Parliament was mentioned here because you remember, I told you that the approval process had to go through a lot of channels, of which Parliament was included. So that they also received $30,000. Then there was an Asante personnel. I don't know how they called it Asante personnel. That one too, they received some $35,000. So we are following the money. So these MOP girls, right? So the money was for information. That's what's the document. So we are asking, was it for information? Was it for internal, internal background works? So one of the more unusual entries concerned 3 Ministry of Power staff described in the email as MOP girls. So the record says that 30,000 was promised, $20,000 was approximately or allegedly paid, and $10,000 was outstanding. But according to the email, the women were considered useful because they provided communication, access, and internal information. So this allegation is not only about influencing formal approvals, it also raises some questions about was confidential document information itself being brought up to the company. Then there was the PRC 20,000 that was named. And the regulator was also appeared in this. It was very prominent and said that PRC has so far received some $120,000. That's 120K. And the correspondence described that as 100,000 from one party plus $20,000 from Berko. So Berko sent 20,000, and another party also remitted about $100,000. Then the last stage of our discussion will have to do with who is who. So there are a lot of people who have been mentioned in here. Number 1, the presidential relative. So the case also contains one especially sensitive political reference. So the U.S. prosecutors describe an unnamed person simply as a relative of the president of Ghana. We can deduce that person was allegedly linked to one of Ghanaian consulting companies and participated in discussion around the project. But the court files does not accuse the president himself of receiving money. I have to put this one on record. So this distinction matters, that an unnamed presidential relative appears in the case. The president himself is not accused in the indictment of what? Taking bribes. So we ask the question, who is who? Who is Ghana official 1? Who is Ghana official 2? Who is the presidential relative? Who are the MOP, the Ministry of Power girls? Which people were the power team, the 5 people? Which people received that PRC money that was sent in total of $120 US? And the Greco engineers and the parliament recipients. These are the questions that are hanging.
A very important detail, wisdom, that you put out there.
Yeah.
And there are 2 individuals who have been listening to you quite closely, and that's Franklin Kujo. He is founding president of Imani Africa, and then also Adam Sedan, who's a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and also the chairperson of the African Union Advisory Board on Anti-Corruption. And gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Great. And maybe before I bring you in, I read a statement from IOCO. We have also received a statement from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The OSP says they provided investigation and evidentiary assistance to the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States through Ghana's established mutual legal assistance framework. The involvement of the OSP has been acknowledged by the U.S. Department of Justice as providing significant assistance to the prosecution. And IOCO also says that prior to we all getting to know this detail on Friday, they also played a role in collaborating with the FBI as well. Now, based on this premise, now that this same Ghanaian investigative authorities have now been taxed, or they have indicated they are going to get into the Ghanaian side of all of this, to know the public officials who were bribed and all these persons who have been named in there, to establish whether or not, based on what we have seen, there is enough evidence of conspiracy to prosecute these implicated officials. What are your expectations of IOCO, OSP, Attorney General's office beyond these statements that we have just seen they put out? And I'll start off with you, Mr. Franklin Kujo, on this.
Hi, good evening once again, and good evening to Senate. This whole thing makes, should I call it, is it a mockery of the entire process? I mean, I think we have our answers already, don't we? I mean, if the USP and even IOCO somehow, I don't know whether they are contesting to tell us how beautiful they are, or they have been in supporting the process that ended in the United States, which got Berko caged. Presumably, they have all the information that we need here. Is that not the case? So all they need to do is to just send over that information, get the people involved, and then let's start a trial. Let's get the money and let's jail some people. So I guess that's all I need to say. I mean, otherwise, what are we really discussing? They already have the issue. They already know everybody involved. They help extensively. Is the U.S. Authorities are saying that OSP greatly helped, and the OSP also agrees that they did help, and the IOCO says they also helped. Presumably, they have the information we need. So there's no need going around the bush anyway. I mean, these 2 institutions alone should come and tell us who these people are, and then let's get on with it. I mean, in fact, they should have been arrested by now. I said these people know themselves. They should probably be reporting to the nearest police station even before they get called. You know, so I mean, that's all I've got to tell you.
I see. You said there's enough information for these people named in this report by the FBI to have been arrested by now.
Yeah, but the point really is that if they were not named, I mean, the trial ended in the States, didn't it? Which means that we already know everything now. You know, the Americans are obviously very thorough, by the way, and our Ghanaian authorities also help them. So, clearly speaking, the case is done and dusted. I think we always feeling, I don't know, what we do best here is done and dusted. Let's get the names out, the people, get the IOCO and Co. They know the people. Get them out, and let's have a, I mean, yeah.
And thank you, Mr. Kujo. Kindly stay on for me. And Mr. Anu, I build on from where Franklin Kujo just ended, that there is enough evidence of conspiracy to have even arrested the persons who have been mentioned in this particular report by the FBI. But there was nothing in the statement that said that the 1 million was in fact paid. But when it came to other public officials, however, the statement was a lot more categorical. Bribes were also paid to 5 Ghanaian officials during an all expenses paid trip to Turkey to view equipment for the power plant, during which the officials each received $5,000. Enough to have arrested some people by now?
I think, Franklin is right. There's a lot of evidence. The problem is the threshold of evidence that is available. If you've monitored cases that have been handled by our anti-corruption agencies, they failed in court many often because connecting the specific amounts to the individual. So you need a witness who would say this was handed over. Even in the case of the U.S. one, my understanding is that the assistance included getting a witness from here who had to go there to make the case solid, and even convincing this person apparently involved a kind of negotiations and how will I put it, certain promises and commitments to get this person to be willing to go to the U.S. to give that kind of testimony. So the complication we are faced with is a threshold of evidence required to get these people, as it were, sanctioned. And indeed, it is the reason why certain persons, when they didn't even bother with calling or attempting to extradite certain people, they just focused on one particular individual to the extent that the evidence available was going to get them the conviction. So this is the nature of the problem we face at the moment. There is clear evidence, but if you go to a court, especially in our jurisdiction where the tendency is that you have to prove we beyond reasonable doubt that this person actually received these payments, you will have a difficulty.
So the point that with what I just read in there, that's a public statement, not evidence. So not much stock could be placed to be placed on that.
It won't get you anywhere. And you don't have the names there. You don't have the witnesses who say, I paid. If it happened in Turkey, who made the payment in Turkey? Where are those witnesses to confirm that your Ghanaian officials received that money and how much they received? So that's the nature of the challenge that is faced. I'm expecting that, for example, the OSP, given the fact that they did assess, when the media report is provided, hopefully in a week or two, they will speak to these issues and carry us along. But I'm clearing my mind from what I know, that the challenge we face is the nature of the threshold of evidence required to procure a ruling that sanctions these people. We don't appear to be at that stage.
I see, and Mr. Kujo, flying from what Mr. Ano makes about the threshold of the evidence as put out in this public statement by the FBI, and that not much preference or stock could be placed on that. But what is clear is that, at least now, the United States investigative body, they have done their job. They have convicted who has to be convicted. Is that enough to give us some strength of our path to prosecution?
Sorry, repeat the last question again.
I was asking if, based on the conviction of Beko, is enough strength for our path to convicting these persons who are named in there as having received monies in this whole process of the bribes?
I think Senator is quite right when it comes to that bit of the weight of the evidence. As I just realized that I think there was some references to some negotiations to pay money, and then some were actually paid. So clearly, it's likely that some monies were not eventually paid. So yeah, I can see that lacuna. But you see, the challenge here is that unfortunately, if whoever the witness was that was taken here from here, negotiated and went to the States to virtually nail Beku, it actually means that, if we're really doing the trail back here, if we really wanted to know those who facilitated on the side of the Ghana part of the transaction. If you're able to know, I mean, we should almost have the same forces if we're really interested in fighting corruption, and then find a means of getting to know the best persons who have who facilitated this payment and those who got the payment. I can understand it's difficult, but clearly, if the Americans are able to get a witness, why shouldn't we be able to procure witnesses here? I mean, people who are live witnesses. But hey, this is Ghana, so I can understand. It's tough.
But at least the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, has categorically denied any involvement in these allegations of bribery. His lawyers have written, giving some copious detail of events regarding him and the fact that he never came into contact with or demanded or received any money from the said Asante Beko. So where should we be looking at now, beyond him?
Well, again, that's where I feel strongly that the wording of that part of the statement that suggested that some monies were negotiated but not eventually paid, because that's the way the reading comes off, right? But then they were categorical, like you stated. Monies were paid to A, B, C, D. Those ones really, maybe those are the ones you should absolutely go after, and then maybe find a way of, because I don't think this one was completed, right? So I'm not saying Donkor must have placed himself in a position to negotiate or whatever. I feel strongly that I want to believe him, because as far as that statement is concerned, I don't think that transaction was concluded. So yeah, I don't know whether he was there in the first place, but that's the reading I get when that statement. If you put that statement alongside the very definitive ones I said, ABC, MOP, and the rest were paid. So that's clear enough. But I'm saying that generally, as a way of fighting corruption, look, I think the challenge here is that because these things happen most of the time, and we normally do not even get to the bottom of it, right? Unless there's an external party. Look at what we are doing with kind of Reta. I mean, we make a blunder of almost everything. So it's sad, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, the closure that some people who believe they have been named wrongly would want to have, they may never have it, because in the case of Kwabena Donkor, people are already hanging him anyway. I mean, the statement is there, but we like Senator is saying, there's no evidence that he collected money. You see, so it's a big issue. But for me, the ones that we know.
Alfred, can I weigh in a little on that? I mean, look, here's part of the challenge. Typically, for these people who engage in these things, what they do is this: you have a middle man or two. So, Officer 1 picks the thing from the bank. It's maybe his account, so his name is on it, that he's going to distribute, and he's not the one going to distribute. He gives it to an Officer 2. Now, when the report comes out, because the account is in the name of Officer 1, what you hear is so and so and so. The money ended up with Mr. KD or Mr. AB. Mr. AB, because it was Officer 2 who came, or Officer 3 who came, will say, I have never ever met Officer 1. In my lifetime, in my working, we've had no engagement. I have nothing to do. Are you getting the scenario I'm painting? And he's telling the truth. But the truth, but along the line, Officer 2, Officer 3, who shared the dividends, and then they took a certain portion, and then they also sent the next one. Their names are not featuring, and yet something happened. That's the nature of the difficulty. Franklin is right. If we really want to deal with this, what happens is this: the Americans can provide you, they'll offer you, we'll change your identity, we'll take care of your family, we will pay you this, we'll pay you that. By the time they've made the offer, even the most unwilling whatnot will say, you know what, I think this one, my life is settled. If we were serious, that is the level to which we should go. Indeed, the anti-corruption sector in Ghana, I think we need to ring-fence some funds to support them if they're going to deal with this cancer and deal with it comprehensively. So this is just to give you the extent of the nature of the challenge in concluding on specific issues as far as the threshold of evidence is concerned.
So it's an emphasis on the threshold of evidence, whether or not it would be enough to, as it were, convict or implicate or prosecute
and
these
that
officials.
It's not impossible if you have the right offer, you have the right ask. Because what usually they will do is to pick one of the people who were part of the chain. So Officer 2 or Officer 3 make a big offer to them that you move over and become a prosecution witness, and when we are hauling all these people, we'll find a way of protecting you. Usually that's the kind of negotiation that will go into making sure that the prosecution can land its case and land it effectively.
Yes. Mr. Kujo, finally, quick one.
And Alfred, don't we have living examples? In the case of Wuntumi, didn't the prosecution successfully manage to get someone from his camp to 10? It's possible.
Yeah.
To have someone serve as prosecution witness.
You just need to, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your thoughts on this matter. Appreciate you. That's Franklin Kujo, founding president of Imani Africa, and also Adam Senanu is the chairperson of the African Union. That's the body on anti-corruption, also a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. But the lawyers of, as I indicated, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, who is a former power minister, they've denied any involvement in allegations of bribery linked to the United States case involving the former Tamale Refinery managing director and Goldman Sachs banker Asante Kweku Beko. Before we hear from Kwabena Tahir Hammond, KT Hammond, former Dansia Square MP, who is the lawyer for the former power minister, Dr. Kwabena Donko. Let's do a quick recall, right? And Wisdom, the institutions and persons mentioned in this report by the FBI, who are they? And I asked a question about, you know, if Kwabena Donko says, well, I didn't even come into contact with this person or even receive any money, who should we be looking at? And where should we be looking at? If that's where, not maybe who, because no names were mentioned in here, just titles.
You know what, Alfred, let me just go through the people that were not named. You see, the transcript that we got, they mentioned some names. Of course, they mentioned the executive director, that's Asante Kweku Beko, of course. They also mentioned the Ministry of Power, right? But they gave them a tag, like Ghana Official 1. So Ghana Official 1, who is Ghana Official 1? From the document, Ghana Official 1 was the one leading the negotiations on behalf of the whole cabinet and the Ministry of Power. And he was brokering between AXA Energy and Goldman Sachs. So he is government official 1, and the payment that was made to official 1 was $250,000. That was the payment that was made to Ghana official 1, as per the transcript. Then we have Ghana official 2. He was part of an emergency project team from the Ministry of Power. Then, and he was leading the charge for a senior ministry official in the Ministry of Power that needs to, they need that person's signature or approval on the deal for it to materialize. So the official 2, Ghana official 2, was leading that charge. And how much did Ghana official 2 get? Ghana official 2 also get $250,000. So that's
same as the Ghana official 1.
Exactly.
Right.
Then we have the presidential relative. The presidential relative was also part of the entire delegation. Okay? And from the document, if you read it, the spirit of it was that it was representing the spirit, the person was spearheading the interest of cabinet.
Right.
Then we have the MOP girls, the Ministry of Power girls. And for them, yes, the Ministry of Power girls. For them, they were at the Ministry of Power, and their role was to provide information from within to the entire parties involved, especially AXA Energy.
They were like informants.
Informants within the ministry, and they received some. The MOP girls received $25,000 US. Then we have the PRE recipients. You know, in the whole chain, the PRE is responsible for implementation, right? And if this has to go through, then they also have to endorse it.
Absolutely.
And they also received some $20,000 US. That's for the ministry. So the MOP girls received 20,000. The PRC team also received 20,000. There are some Gridco engineers also mentioned here. They also received $20,000 US. And there are these 5 people who traveled as a team. Okay, for them, the expenses were paid. 5 people, they were given $5,000 US each. Their per diem, their hotel, their air tickets, their everything paid for. In all, it totaled about $45,000 US. And there is Parliament. Alfred, what I actually did last night was to map all what the transcript was saying to previous news items and the institutions. You know what? I think the general public should also do due diligence and go to these websites, track back way back 2015, 2014.
Oh, I will do it for them. And that's what you have done.
Yes, you give out the full details as time goes on. And this parliament recipient received some $30,000 US as well. So in all, these are the institutions that were mentioned and the people that...
And you hear them said, and they talk about the threshold of evidence because, you know, what you have just said, and typical of the U.S. FBI and investigative authorities, they would not mention names.
Yes.
Because, for instance, for the Airbus one, we had government official one.
Exactly.
This one, they say Ghana official one.
Yes, Ghana official
one. Ghana official two.
Yes.
Then, if we're going to go on this path, Adam Sedano talks about the threshold as to whether this would be enough to prosecute these persons or persons who have been caught. There are no specific names, and then if we're going to get names, who exactly received the money.
Exactly.
But to the extent that, you know, and that's what Franklin Kujo was saying, that in time past, the Attorney General has been able to get people to act as prosecution witnesses. Persons who are accused to act as prosecution witnesses, and then, you know, spill the beans, give out more names, give out more information, so we can actually go on this path as well, you know, because there's high interest in this matter.
You see, we are sticking to the transcript from the document that we got from the ruling, and Alfred, you heard Adam Senanu saying that to get how they operate is such that they use a lot of intermediaries. So if the first person is the recipient, there's a second person who is receiving the money on behalf of the third person.
Absolutely.
So how do you provide evidence that it is this particular person who actually was at the final receiving end of the money? That becomes a challenge for some of these corruption cases. And I must put on record that, Alfred, I did an analysis on all corruption or bribery related cases we've had since 1992 to look at the convictions and the prosecution. Do you know that, Alfred, up to now, there's no one or nobody in Ghana's prison that has been convicted on bribery or corruption charges?
Interesting stuff.
Yes,
it's one
so
to look out for.
That's it, by the way.
And Wisdom, appreciate you for this. And while we're at it, let's take a listen to Kwabena Tahir Hammond. Katie Hammond is a private legal practitioner and speaking for Dr. Kwabena Donko, the former power minister in the ex-while, that's the first Mahama administration. Take a listen.
There has been a trial in America. There has been a conviction, and the process, something has come up, and his name is readily come up. So he explains, and you're asking me why is he taking, why is it that he's come up now? I don't quite get it. He's come out now because this is the time that he feels that his name has come up in this matter.
I see. In that statement to us, Honorable, your client denies knowing Asante Beko. He denies being on that trip to Turkey for the inspection. In fact, he says there was a technical team that did that. And in the indictment, we hear of Ghana official, one who is described as acting on behalf of the Ghana Ministry of Power and also an advisor to a high-ranking official in the Ghana Ministry of Power. Same for official 2, which means that your client had contributed 2 members of his team to this technical team that went to Istanbul. Who were they?
Listen, let's be careful. This statement is not on behalf of everyone. It's on behalf of one person, and he is Dr. Kwabena Donko. who happened to have been the minister at the time material, would explain that. As a matter of official knowledge, I mean, if you have any knowledge about how that ministry runs and the power sector and how purchases of electricity took place at the time, or even now, you would understand, you appreciate some of the issues involved. One institution, particularly the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Power, they want to purchase any electricity, you would first invite the company which has the plant to come and have the discussions with the authorities in the country. It would always invariably be the ministry responsible for that, Power at the time, or Ministry of Energy. And then a contingent, and the contingent was almost invariably be those who have technical knowledge of it. It is stated clearly in the document that you are seeing that those people who went would be the relevant stakeholders. Those will be ECG, those will be VRA, those will be PURC, all of them. Of course, they would have to go with the officers from the Ministry of Power at the time. Because they would then have to come back, collect the results, and report to the appropriate minister. That's all there is. So you're asking me who are they? I mean, it is public knowledge. And that list is not disputed. It is not contested. And list is there. Human beings did go on that particular journey to Istanbul to investigate the integrity of the plant that was going to be brought to this country to produce electricity for Ghana. That's what we're talking about. Be careful about the questions. Just be careful. Be careful about your questions.
Honorable, did your clients know that when they were taking that trip was not at the expense of the government of Ghana, but rather it was at the expense of the companies involved?
Do you know whether it is at the expense of the company, or it was at the expense of the company, or at the expense of the government of Ghana? Do you know that? You're asking whether he knew or he didn't know.
Well, based on what the indictment says, the trip was fully paid for.
Say it again.
Based on what the indictment says, the trip was fully paid for by the Turkish energy company. Now, what I'm asking you is, did your client approve for that to happen? What was the reason behind that?
Did he himself attend? Did it mention that my client himself was on that delegation? Some people were asked to go. They did attend. What has he himself got to explain as far as the financing of that is concerned?
But your client was the Minister of Power. If such an important negotiation was going to take place, he will know who was going, how it was being funded, and the likes. The question I'm asking you is, did you...
Calm down. I've always been advising your colleagues. Some of this matter, when they come up, you see opportunity of talking to the life of lawyers and those who have some involvement with this matter some time and study the subject matter. If you had, you wouldn't be asking these questions. They are very clear what the procedure is. At the time I myself was the Deputy Minister of Energy, up to now, the procedure has been very clear. Those who go and how it is financed is very clear.
Well, that's Katie Hammond, lawyer for the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor there. Martin Pebble is a legal practitioner, also an anti-corruption crusader, a former member of the oral preparatory team, had this to say about this particular issue.
Hello? Yes. So I said, that's how, I said, that's how Katie always handles his interviews, like the way the banter went on between the two of you. Yes. So, and even apart from Kwabena Donkor engaging Katie Hammond, he's been on social media and other media where he has strenuously denied. I remember even engaging him a little bit on one of the WhatsApp platforms. There's a popular WhatsApp platform in Ghana called Alert with Adam Bona. Yeah, he's on it. And then that place, he kept bringing information, trying to show that he wasn't the one who took any bribe, not knowing those were reactions he had already made on Facebook to a post earlier on made by a certain lady called Ajua Enima. So she first put Katie's picture on Facebook and said, this is the minister who was minister at the time, the bribes were paid, etc. So Katie went on Facebook and replied that no, he wasn't the one, etc. Then Katie brought those information to the WhatsApp group. I said created by Adam Bonner, the chief executive of the Small Arms Commission. And so that place, I got the opportunity to, make a few statements about Kwabena Donkor's narration of the events. So Kwabena Donkor in those days has been saying that at the time the bribes were paid, he was not in office. That's in September. And of course, he resigned at the end of 2015. Sometime in December 2015, 1/5. And that the bribes were paid in 2016, 1/6, when he was not in office. So far, that is his statement. That is what he's been saying. So what I would say at this stage is that, well, let the investigations go on. If Beko is willing to cooperate, he would come and tell us the persons he paid to. Because once he's saying payments were made, then we pray that since he's a dual citizen of the US and Ghana, he should help us. It is duty under Article 41 of the Constitution of Ghana.
Very well. So Council, just to correct that point, when you look at the indictment, the bribes were not all paid in 2016. This is something that began in 2014, took form early 2015, and as of the April 19, 2015, investigators were able to retrieve emails between the convicted former TOR MD in the US now.
The case under the Constitution of Ghana, Article 19, Clause 2C, a person is innocent of a criminal offense until he's proven guilty. So it is the investigators who would dig, or if you like, mine, and come up with the gold. That's to say the evidence that will show that X is guilty, Y is guilty, W is guilty. Then they will present these things to the court. And then that's how come whoever is presented before the court would then also give his answer. So
that's Martin Pebble, a private legal practitioner there, also sharing his thoughts on this story that has been unfolding thick and fast over the last 72 hours. Metrofan here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale, and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. And we'll keep an eye on this. Make a date on Ghana Tonight at 10 p.m. on TV3. We'll sink our teeth into various aspects of this particular issue that has got many talking and demanding some answers as well. Ioko, the Attorney General, and the Office of Special Prosecutor have all issued statement indicating that they are getting into investigating the Ghana aspect of this particular issue, although they also collaborated with the FBI in investigating this particular case that has led to the conviction of Beko, who is a former Tamale Refinery Managing Director. But we've just received a statement right now from the former Special Prosecutor Martin Alamisi Burns Kaiser Amidu, who's saying that OSP started investigations into the case of this AXA Power deal in 2020, and this was inherited by the current Special Prosecutor, only to disappear later from the published list of cases under investigation. That is Martin Amidu asking questions of the current Special Prosecutor. But away from that, the opposition, a New Patriotic Party, is calling on President Mahama to withhold his assent to the Ghana Cocoa Board Bill, that's the Cocoa Bill 2026, and return it to Parliament for further scrutiny and broader stakeholder consultation. Speaking at a press conference in Accra, ranking member on Parliament's Agriculture Committee and co-chair of the NPP Policy Committee on Agriculture, Dr. Isaac Yaopoku, said the bill was passed without adequate consultation with key stakeholders. Dr. Isaac Yaopoku argues that cocoa farmers, landowners, and other industry players should have been giving the opportunity to contribute to the legislation before its passage. And the party is therefore urging President Mahama to return the bill to Parliament. Joining us on the telephone is a Member of Parliament for the Ofinso South constituency, Honorable Isaac Opoku. Honorable, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
When we spoke to Cocoa Board prior to today, they had indicated that there was consultation with the farmer groups especially, and their input was also taken because this bill has actually gone through many phases, at least over the last almost 2 years now. Is it the case?
That is not the case. The Ghana National Cocoa Farmers Association, the president is one Mr. Anane Boateng. The Ghana National Best Cocoa Farmers Association, the president is Mr. Charles Jemfi. You can call any of them and ask. None of them was consulted. The president of the Cocoa Holiers Association is one Jerome. You can call him. He was not consulted either. Neither any of his or her members, consulted. And if indeed, the consultations were made, when the Joint Finance, Agric, and Constitutional and Legal Committee met to consider whether the bill should be passed under certificate of urgency, we requested for the stakeholders' engagement report. There was none. And if indeed they claim that they met cocoa farmers, they should make the report available to us. The bill was passed on the 29th of July, 2026. The farmers were called to Cocoa House on just last week, Monday, after the bill had been passed. So no farmer was consulted. It is not true. That is not the case.
I see. So if you're asking that the bill should not be assented to by the president, a parliament reconvenes in a number of weeks, but already this has been passed. And so what exactly is your reason, the position why the president should not be assented?
There are so many reasons. You see, maybe for want of time, we may not be able to go through all of them. But take a look at clause 59. There are a number of activities there. And the bill says that all those activities will be licensed for private sector, the private sector, to execute all those activities. Currently, as we speak, all those activities are executed by the private sector. There's a sub-clause which says external market, export and external marketing of cocoa will also be licensed for the private sector to undertake that activity. So are they saying that they are going to liberalize the export and external marketing of cocoa? It's a danger. If they do that, the cocoa industry will collapse. Remember when PBC was the sole license buying company, a lot of Ghanaians were employed. When it was liberalized, today they produce buying company, PBC. It has totally collapsed. So that clause should be removed. Apart from that, there are so many other clauses. Clause 4, for example, restriction of the mandate of Cocoa Board. We agree that indeed Cocoa Board should restrict itself to her core mandate. We agree to that. But there's another loophole. Clause 4B says if the minister approves, then Cocoa Board can undertake activities carried out by the other ministries, departments, or agencies. And we are saying that in one breath, we are saying they should restrict themselves to the core mandate. In another breath, you say the minister can approve. It's a loophole. You see? Then, if you go to clause 81, for example, the clause 81 says, a farmer shall, it's a shallow, a farmer shall not destroy, uproot, or remove any part of the cocoa. You cannot remove any cocoa tree. You cannot damage your cocoa tree unless you seek approval from Cocoa Board.
And
if you are conversant with how cocoa is cultivated, it's going to be almost impossible to implement that particular clause. It's almost impossible because it's a daily routine. The husbandry, in cocoa farms, daily routine. They do it every day. So if I want to prune my farm, if I want to thin my farm, if there's an infected plant and I want to remove, I have to seek permission from Cocoa Board. Again, the cocoa management system, the registration. If you are not registered under that system, you cannot sell your produce. I mean, how on earth would you enact this law? This registration started in 2019. 7 years down the line, we have not been able to complete the registration through no fault of any farmer because they don't register themselves. And an enumerator from Cocoa Board will have to go and register them. And you are saying that if you are not registered, you cannot sell your cocoa. Why would you do that? So, and there are a number of clauses, even the 50%, share, the 50% that we intend to give to local processors. It's a good law. It's a good policy. We agree. But they should come clear. Are we going to sell the produce at a discount or it will be sold at the same price as we sell on the international market? They should come clear. Because currently, no local processing company is barred from purchasing cocoa. You can buy any quantity that you want, but they have to buy them at the international price. What we give to the local processors is the light crop, and the light crop is sold to them at a discount of 20%. So if we are going to sell 50%, it means we'll have to top it up with the main crop. At least 30% or so will have to be. And the question we are asking, that 30%, will it be sold at a discount or it will be sold at the same price on the international market? We need to know.
Appreciate you for this.
Absorb, that's
on the matter of the consultation, Alhaji Al-Hassan Bukhari is the chief speaker and primary representative for cocoa farmers, joining us on the other line. Alhaji, good evening. Hello, Alhaji.
Hi, hello. Is this Alfred?
Yes.
Alfred, I'm not Alhaji. This is Obed.
This is who? Forgive me.
Obed. Yes, I speak for the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform.
Oh, perfect. Obed, thank you so much for joining us. There was a little mishap with the name. Forgive me. Do you share in this concern about the lack of consultation between the Cocoa Board and the cocoa farmers groups regarding this bill that has been passed by Parliament?
Well, once again, thank you very much, Alfred, for having me, and good evening to your listeners. Last week, Monday, exactly a week today, we were at Cocoa House to meet Dr. Raniabe, and this issue came up. We raised this issue that there wasn't enough consultation with stakeholders. The rebuttal that we got was that they gave consultancy to Shawbell Consulting, and so they were required to do the consultation for and on behalf of the Cocoa Board. And even said this, Dr. Raniabe even went further to say that when he took over as the CEO of Cocoa Board, he went around the country, and in going around the country and meeting farmers, they noted the concerns of farmers, so they equated that to consultation. And for us as civil society, we thought that was very disingenuous on their part to say that. We heard about this bill long ago, and when we inquired, we were told that when the bill gets to Parliament, we will be invited to submit memorandum. So we kept waiting for the bill to get to Parliament for us to get the opportunity, and the opportunity never came because it went under the certificate of urgency. So if you ask about consultation, unfortunately, I would have to say that there wasn't enough consultation, especially with civil society and other stakeholders and farmer groups. There wasn't enough consultation on this bill.
So you subscribe to that call for this bill not to be accented to, as the minority is saying, because we speak to earlier, the Cocoa Board's position as well is that, they engaged, that's number one, and this clause 81 is that their explanation is that when, for instance, illegal miners destroy cocoa farms, and the same cocoa farmers come to complain about the destruction caused to their farms, the intent and objective of Clause 81 is to protect the cocoa farmers against these actions of illegal miners as well, for instance. I'll find out your thoughts on that.
Well, yes, we were also told the same thing, but let me put this on record that good intentions alone do not make good laws. So you might have very good intentions to pass a law govern the sector, but good intentions alone do not translate into good laws. You need to situate the law in the socio-cultural, socio-economic context of your country. And we are saying that on this particular clause, Clause 81, it becomes even more dangerous when you read Clause 81 alongside Clause 110, which is about the offenses and punishment. And you realize that the farmer is being put between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea. To one breath, you cannot convert your farm, your cocoa farm, to other food crop or any other crop unless you see approval. And we all know approval seeking processes in Ghana. You need to go through all these bureaucracies. And we feel that it will be a disincentive to the farmer. And on particular clause, we strongly appeal to the Cocoa Board and the President to probably take it back to Parliament for further consultation on that. Having said that, I need to also say this, Alfred, that the law in totality is a good law. It's a very, very good law. There are very good provisions that will really make farmers better off. There are provisions that are establishing funds to manage pension and other things. And we think it's a good law. And we don't want to throw the baby away with the bathwater, but there needs to be further consultation on some of those losses and policy areas that people are raising issues about, especially when it comes to the Clause 81 and its associated clauses.
Obed, appreciate you for this. Thank you. Thank you so much. So whether he speaks for the Ghana Cocoa Platform there. Also, the Honorable Isaac Opoku, Member of Parliament for the Offensive South constituency. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for staying with us here on Hot Edition. We're back again tomorrow. In the meantime, stay with us. The drive continues with DJ Abiam and Trick Martin. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight, which will also be live on 3FM 92.7. Behalf of the rest of the team, Sixtus Don Ulo, Rosalind, thank you so much for staying with us. Have a good evening.